Hi, Tech Moms. Okay, we're back with another edition of these Loom tutorials. And this time we're on step 4, fun with pivot tables. So we've already done step 1, getting to know our data. Step 2, cleaning the data. Step 3, analyzing the data using functions, asking all kinds of questions, using count if, sum if. So now we are on step 4, fun with pivot tables. So maybe I mentioned this before. I love pivot tables. They make it so easy to aggregate data and drag and drop, filter on what you need to filter by. And the difference between functions is functions are great for doing specific calculations, and then pivot tables are great for summarizing these larger data sets. So what we're going to do to start is we're going to create a new tab, pivot tables, and start asking questions of the data by creating pivot tables. For example, what is the employment status of applicants that were assigned to cohort? And what's the household income of applicants that were assigned to cohort? The number of students by cohort. So we're going to go through and create a tab called pivot tables and start adding pivot tables to this tab. So let's get going. So let's do hide here, move my face, add new tab, rename pivot tables. I just want it over here. So to start to add a new pivot table, first I'm going to grab the questions that I want to answer. And for this, I'm just going to copy and paste one at a time. What is the employment status of applicants that were assigned to cohort? So for me, you don't have to do this. This is just for me to focus on what I'm doing. What is the employment status of applicants that were assigned to cohort? So again, we're going to use the analysis tab because it's the clean version. We've deleted the extra rows that we didn't need. Go here and go, I highlight all of them, insert pivot table, existing sheet. And so here we're going to go over to pivot tables, click there. For some reason, you have to like click around a couple times, click, click. There we go. Okay, so this is where this first pivot table is going to be, and we're going to create. So it's empty. We have, I'll go here. All of these options as far as the columns from the analysis tab, and we get to drag and drop what we want into rows. Again, rows are this way, columns are this way. And so what I want to see is, I kind of visualize the table that how I want to see this. I want to see rows of the employment status. And in the column, I want to see the amount of students by employment status. So I kind of have a visualization in my head of what the table looks like. And so I can decide, do I want it in columns across this way, where the employment status is across this way, or do I want it in rows? I want it in rows. So employment status rows. There we go. And then the number of students. So again, we're going to go contact ID, values. It's going to sum the contact ID, but we don't want that. We want to count. So we have that 1681, which matches my 1681 of total applicants here. So that makes sense. But we want to filter it on only students. So we want to filter it on those that have been assigned a cohort. So we're going to drag and drop applicant status to filters. Here, I clear all, assigned cohort, okay. So that gives us that 556. I go back to my functions, that matches there. If your numbers don't match exactly, don't stress about that too much. We will address that in like the final review. But in general, the numbers should be in this general like 500 something. And then you're on the right track. So, okay, so this is interesting. We have employment status, so blank. So not all of the data is filled in, and that's normal. Employed almost full-time, up to 35 hours, 67. Employed full-time is 211. Employed part-time, not currently employed outside the home. That is a large amount. That's really interesting. So that's our first aggregation of answering this question. Okay, we know the employment status. So next we'll move on to the next question. If you need to pause here, do this, come back, and we'll answer the next question together, which is, what is the household income of applicants that were assigned a cohort? So I'm going to paste this in. I'm going to go household income. And then we're going to do the same thing. Analysis, highlight, insert, pivot table, existing sheet, pivot tables. Click the button there, click the button there, click the button there. I don't know why I have to do it that way. If someone knows a better way to do that, please let me know. But for some reason, I do the little click back and forth. And I'm going really fast because this is just repetition. We're going to do the same thing 5 times. So you can pause after each time, follow along. But by the end, I'm going to task you all to do this on your own and ask additional questions, similar as we did on the functions tab. So create. Okay, so think about this. What is the household income of applicants that were assigned a cohort? So what do we want to move to rows? What do we want to see? We want to see household income by row. And then what do we want to see in the values? What are we going to drag to the values in this pivot table? Contact ID again. Again, a lot of repetition, and we're going to change this to count. So we have that 1681 number. That looks good. It matches what our total was before. But again, we want to segment this by students. So assigned cohort, how are we going to do that? Applicant status, filters, clear, assigned cohort. This will look different on Excel. So for my Excel mavens, you can watch this and then apply it to Excel. But I think we mentioned this before in class that everything's going to be different in different like years of Excel. And things always change in software where software companies move their buttons, which is really actually pretty frustrating. But it's just kind of figuring out how to figure things out of if you're seeing it in one thing and then figuring it out in another thing, that's a skill in and of itself. So shout out to those doing this on Excel and figuring out the difference between what I'm doing and what you need to do. So this looks cool. Okay, so we know that. And you know what I want to see this, and I want to see this by too. I want to sort it so it's highest to lowest because that makes the most sense in my head. So here so if I'm clicked on here, over here in this pivot table editor, it will have the pivot table for that one. So for employment status, what I'm going to do is it says sort by here, and I can do count. So ascending means like lowest to highest. So I want to do descending because I want to see most to least here. So the majority of students are employed full-time. So that's really interesting as far as like informing times when, classes would be, okay, majority people are employed full-time. That means we need Saturday classes. Or this is interesting, not currently employed outside the home is the second highest. Maybe that means we could do some classes during the day. And that would be a better time slot for some women that are returning to work and have that free time during the day while their kids are at school. So this data is super interesting, and sorting it gives you just a better view. So same thing here. I can click on it. It pulls up over here, and then I want to sort this descending by count. So I can see by count, the biggest group is this 50K to 75K household income. And then it goes down from there. But what I'll show you later on after we kind of get through all of this is a lot of groups. And like we talked about before, if we put everything in like a pie chart, there's just so many slices. And so I like to summarize data like this. And I'll show you in this dashboard. So what we'll kind of go get to is in the visualization that I want to see or I want to present to leadership, this is too many slices. So I want to aggregate it in less categories and groupings. So this is my completed one. What is the household income of applicants that were assigned a cohort? So what I did is I made a little table over here and I did less than 50K, 50K to 100K, 100K plus. And then here I just added up each of the cells. It could be done like a little bit of a more programmatic way, but this works. So I did that, and then I did over here this like percentage of total, so I could get get the information on, okay, this number is households of less than 50K is 43% of the total. So again, we take the number that we want and divide it by the total of everything, and that gives us our percentage. We format it as a percentage. And then if we remember back to what the annual review looked like, that's one of the numbers they report, is they report the demographics of the number of students that are in this income threshold of less than 50K, with the goal of providing services to upskill women to increase their household income. And so this is why this information, this demographic information, is important to collect, analyze, and report on, because again, that's how we get funding from the state, from corporations, because we're able to show these are households with income, needs to increase their income, and these programs that Tech Moms provides helps do that by upskilling women and getting them job ready. So going back to here, we've got number of students by cohort. So I'm going to break this up into another video. We're 12 minutes now. Pause here, do the work. Maybe don't watch the next video and just try to do these questions on your own and see how far you get. But I will be back with another video. So yeah.